Welcome to Exploring the Vines. Today we're in El Dorado County, exploring the wineries of this vast and diverse region. Our hosts this week are Madrona Vineyards. Father and son Dick and Paul Bush will give us some great insights into their winery. So I'm at Madrona Vineyards today, and I'm really looking forward to the experience, getting to know the winemaker himself and all of the staff. But most of all, I look back on probably what was my first wine tasting experience as far as enjoying the wine. I had taken courses, I knew wine pretty well, but I had never actually sat down, and our friends Rich and Jane Hunt, who lived in Plymouth, came with us, and they said, you know, we want to have a picnic. We have the perfect place. They brought us here to Madrona. We sat down on this table, or maybe one similar to it, and we sat for 2 or 3 hours, thoroughly enjoyed ourselves, had cheese and crackers and salami, I'm sure, and really had a great time. And looking back on that, Pam and I think that that was really the thing that kicked it for us, the first time we realized what a wonderful experience you could have wine tasting. And here we are, once again, back in El Dorado County at Madrona, enjoying some wine tasting. We caught up with winemakers Paul and his father Dick while they were literally planting a new vineyard at Madrona. So tell us about the varietals and why you chose certain grapes to grow in this region.
Well, why don't you start with
the original planting here at Madrona Vineyards included Chardonnay and at that time Johannesburg Riesling in the whites, and Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Zinfandel in the reds. I chose them when I wanted to pick varieties that were well suited, would take advantage of the elevation that we have here. So I didn't put grapes would do equally well in lower elevation, warmer climates. And then the other thing is that the economics be attractive. All of the varieties seem to be selling reasonably well, and the prices seem appropriate. So that was the reason for the, and then I had to like the wine. My wife and I had to like the wine. So those were the 3 criteria that we used for selecting these varieties. As we got more experience with the grapes, and I decided that, well, the Cabernet and the Merlot originally was just going to be for blending, but it made such a good wine on its own right, and then it just kind of caught the wave as far as popularity for Merlot is concerned. We thought we would expand on the Bordeaux varieties and add in Cabernet Franc. And then the Riesling was so good that we thought, well, we'll push the envelope in terms of cool climate varieties and planted some Gewürztraminer, which has also worked out extremely well, at least in terms of the quality of the wine. The market hasn't kept pace with our needs, I guess, I have to say, on those varieties. So that,
well, I would argue that Riesling is now the hot item out there, as everybody is looking for Riesling. It's bright, it's fresh, it's just a glorious expression, and across the United States, Rieslings are really picking up compared to other varieties. One of the things that you didn't comment about was all of the vineyards here on the estate, the first 32 acres that are planted, are own-rooted, which is almost unheard of in California. It's where if it's Riesling on the top, it's Riesling roots underneath. If it's Chardonnay on the top, Chardonnay roots underneath, and no rootstock, no AXR1, no 420A, no 10114, no phylloxera resistance, but there's no translation of the soils through the rootstock into the vine. It is that kind of purity that comes from making sure that the roots are the same as the vine above it. We have the home vineyards here, which is 32 acres, and then in Pleasant Valley we have an additional 35 acres with my wife and myself having 15 acres of it, and my brother and sister-in-law having the rest of it. We farm them together, and then we lease another 9 acres and are planting another 5 acres. Now, one thing I've always said is we're not necessarily the smartest winery in the world. A smart winery, and understand this looks grandiose, it looks big. We're one of the largest wineries in El Dorado County for sure, but we're not big enough to be called small. We are boutique. We make about 12,000 cases a year, 150,000 bottles a year, which is enough for the family and a couple extra for customers. But if you are that size winery, you really want to make about 4 different varieties with different tiers. And we grow 29, 30 different varieties. We love to blend. On the Bordeaux's, I mentioned the Cabernet Franc, the Cabernet Sauvignon, and the Merlot, but we also grow Petit Verdot and Malbec. And we really think that the Malbec up in this area, as well as the Cabernet Franc, are varieties for the region. We have Petit Syrah, we have Zinfandel, we have Grenache, we have Syrah, we have Nebbiolo, we have Barbera. All things that we felt would fit in little microclimates that we have in our different undulating vineyards at 3,000 feet elevation. So they have different expressions at different soils and different elevations. In the whites, Gewurz, Riesling, Chardonnay, but we also have Marsanne, Roussanne, Viognier, Moscato Giallo, Yellow Muscat, just things that we really enjoy playing around with, and works nicely with the active tasting room that we have upstairs. And so if we did it all again, we might only plant 4 varieties, but we're sure having a lot of fun doing what we're doing.
It is still growing with 30.
It will, within 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, if there's anybody, a guy who's got a degree in economics, you should be able to figure all that out. But
no, actually my degree is in macroeconomics, so give me a third world country and I can probably get it back on its feet, but I can't balance a checkbook. So.
But that's why you have your wife.
That's not why I have my wife.
Why you need your wife.
To be married to my wife.
It's good to have your wife around.
Yes.
She's a restraining influence on a really dumb thing to do.
Yes.
Have you come at a crossroads where you could keep it as small as it is and or jump into the fast lane?
Yeah.
Have we come to that crossroads?
Correct.
Yeah, but that's a personal decision that you need to make in terms of, okay, so go to the next step of it, which is we have 2 small children. And whenever you own a business, it's all encompassing. It takes so much of your own time, because you're the cheapest labor you can find, and so you're doing everything. If you start adding into it, trying to sell in New York and Chicago and Miami and all these different places, that means that I have to fly there to help promote the wines and sell them and everything. If we get much larger than, say, 15,000 cases, then life gets very complicated with lots of traveling and not very much family time. And that means my 2 daughters, or Maggie and my 2 daughters, don't get to see me at all, and you've given up a huge part of your life just for that extra couple of cases. So instead, we provide a really great experience in the tasting room, and about 70% of our sales are through our small tasting room here in the heart of El Dorado County, but we're in the area that the Apple Hill growers have made famous, and it is the agricultural mecca for agritourism in the United States. And so it is the most popular agricultural tourism spot in the entire United States. Wow. And that's why we get, 700,000 agri-tourists coming in through the area for apples and pumpkins and pears and peaches and blueberries and cherries and wine. And so it all works together in a very diverse area up here.
During the initial stages of our operation, a number of years ago, we were spread around. We were in New York, Ohio, Washington, D.C., Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, Texas, and
Quebec, Alberta,
and then Germany, Switzerland, overseas. So we have the ability to market the wines, but it's very difficult for a small winery to get adequate representation from the distribution system that is used in this country and mandated by the government. So we've decided that it makes more sense to pull back and concentrate on our local area, reduce our footprint as much as possible. And it just didn't make as much sense for us to try sending a heavy product back east when we could do an even better job locally.
Well, and even when we travel, I mean, if I travel to Sonoma, I drink and eat local. I don't drink El Dorado and Sonoma. You know, it's about supporting what's in each of those areas. And the more you spread out, I mean, we truly sell all of our wine, pretty much, with the exception of our wine club, which is extremely good for us. But we sell it from Sacramento to Lake Tahoe. We believe in local, we believe in that whole concept of sustainability, and sustainability is more than just environmental. It's part business, it's part community, and it's part environment. And so you got to figure out how that three-legged stool works, and if any of those parts get shortchanged, then your stool falls over. So thinking about the local community and selling in the local area is definitely a part of that entire concept, I would say.
Right.
Last week we did a bunch of bottling here, and so you can see some of the case goods that we're about ready to take down to our other warehouse. But if you guys are interested, we do have some pretty nice wines in barrel right now if you're game.
It'd be hard to convince Mike, but I think we could probably.
That sounds great. Let's go.
Come on.
Dick Bush was anxious to get planting in his new vineyard. Well, we kept Paul a little longer.
You guys are so passionate about it. It's nice to see.
Well, we appreciate the attention.
Oh,
very nice.
You guys are awesome. My pleasure, sir.
All right.
Glad to listen. My pleasure.
Good luck. Enjoy yourself today.
Thank you.
How many bottles do you keep in your library?
It depends on the wine, depends on the vintage. We have every wine from every variety. No, from the winery. Yeah, every wine, every vintage, every variety, going back to 1978. Even the 78 cabs tasted great. I mean, you go back, there are a lot of old wines, the 83 Shards tasting great. We had that a month ago. The Riesling was aged impeccably well. But
You had a Chardonnay from '83.
That's why most wines wouldn't carry that. I assume.
what are you, a beer drinker?
Yes. And any wine I have at home doesn't last very long. The only thing I ever have is Chateau Benoit, because that's my last name, Benoit. So before I saved those bottles until I remarried, you know, and they were excellent. I got them in the 80s, you know, Petit Shiraz and stuff. And it was like, oh, this is excellent.
Well, and this is the bane of having the public run your winery, and that's what California industry has kind of turned into. You know, make it big, make it rich, make it opulent, over the top, but you've just given up all of the things that make wine so unique. The ageability, the nuances, the subtleties, all those kind of things. And so, you know, you ask me, don't age out California Chardonnay. There's no reason to, you know. And even California cabs nowadays, they're overripe. You look at the protocol for wineries. Pick it at 28, water it down to 24, you know, de-alkalize it. This one is like a recipe. It's like, you know, there's not really an essence of it. So, but I think it's coming around, and I think, I mean, we make wines where we actually try to pick on at maturity instead of at just intensity. Yeah. So, and I think you're seeing that a lot more throughout California as the pendulum swings back. People are not looking for 15% alcohol wines; they're looking for 13% alcohol wines, and we're starting to see that get back to what it was in the 70s and 80s.
I'm one of the hosts on Exploring the Vines. My name is Mike Benoit. My brother-in-law, Randy Aspinall. This was a vision we saw maybe about 2 years, and this vision happened when we were traveling with our wives to the different wineries up here in the El Dorado, Amador County. After many visits and many wineries, we thought, well, what a great idea to allow people to kind of follow us and see what we're seeing out there. The different vineyards, the different wineries, the people that we meet, and behind the scenes as far as, you know, what does it take actually to produce a good wine. We have found out what an education level for us this has been, and will continue to be. There's so much more than, you know, the person that goes up to the bar itself and actually, you know, gets to taste the wine. what did it take to get that bottle of wine, the glass of wine that you're sipping, is what we're going to try to show in our series about the wineries up here in outside of Sacramento and the surrounding areas. So, like I said, this is a venture that we hope that you guys will enjoy and come along with us and see what it takes to have a glass of wine. So we're out here with Paul, and we're actually in one of the vineyards. And Paul, can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at here?
Sure. Well, we're in the estate vineyard, so these are 40-year-old vines, and they produce this is Riesling that we're going to be looking at, and I actually brought a bottle to taste of an older Riesling. So if you can hold these couple glasses, I'll open it up while I explain. Low production, about 3.5 tons to the acre on a California sprawl, which is an old system, but very, very happy vines. You can just look across. The best thing about Riesling is it doesn't take any extra leaf removal. It just throws the fruit up into the sunshine, and at this high elevation with our summertime temperatures in the mid-80s, it's like a perfect way to grow Riesling. And when you're talking about expression, this one shows the regionality that when you're going around and tasting Rieslings throughout the United States and throughout Europe and throughout all the other countries, it has very distinct characteristics. In this area, it shows a minerality, kind of this wonderful lemon, lime, citrus character. So this is going to be an older Riesling. It's going to start out with a little bit of a kind of, the term would be diesel-y. Okay, that's what Riesling gets, and then as you let it open up, it'll be more and more like ripe apples. Okay, so you look at the color on it, it's got this beautiful golden color, and this one is 11 years old. And a lot of people don't think you can age white wines, but you can when they're bright and they're fresh and they've got good acid to them. They're wonderful aging white wines. And so you smell it, and it has that kind of, like I said, appley kind of characteristic. This is a dry Riesling. So it'll have very little residual sugar, but at this point it almost has the richness of honey in the mid-palate that almost makes it feel Chardonnay-like, but it's 100% Riesling, classic Riesling.
Very nice, very nice.
But you still get that brightness on the backside, a little bit of citrus, and you can tell it's from El Dorado County.
Right.
And so when you look at the vines here, we've just finished the flower, and now we have these small clusters here, and I suspect that we'll be harvesting Riesling this year, because it's an early year, might be the latter part of September. And we'll harvest the other side of this block first, because it ripens first, and this part second, and they go into different Rieslings. We make an off-dry Riesling, we make a dry Riesling, we can make a dessert Riesling, and just looking for the different expressions that we get out of the area. California is super diverse, right? And you go to the coastal regions, and one reason things work so nicely there is because they have the marine layer that comes in. The fog comes in, it cools it off. And in Napa, as soon as the fog burns off, it gets hot.
Right.
And then it cools down. Well, we don't have no fog here. And what we get instead is when the sun comes up, it starts ripening the fruit at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, but it's a cool climate at that point. Sun comes up, it's not so intense, but it's still getting on the fruit, and we get full ripening all day long. And even though we have a shorter growing season up here than a lot of areas, we get all that sunshine all day long that it gives us that same kind of intensity, but we get a little bit more backbone and structure to the red wines particularly, and also in the white wines you get a little bit more structure aspects to it, and it ends up giving you more ageability and stuff.
So the soil, it looks so orange in color. Tell us a little bit about the soil here.
The soils here, it's an Aiken clay loam, and there are 3 major soils that do extremely well with agriculture in this area. And with the Aiken clay loam, it's a well-drained, deep soil, and one of the reasons we even planted vineyards here was because of the Madrona trees. We consider that to be the indicator of the region, the indicator of where you can grow great grapes in California. So you find them in Mendocino, Sonoma, Napa, on the best parts of Napa in my opinion, and then also throughout this very narrow band running across the Sierra foothills. Aiken clay loam like this, it has a very, very low pH. It's an acidic soil. And what you get out of acidic soils is a little bit more focus on the varietal characteristics and a little bit more elegance. Basic soils are like limestone soils. They give you more richness and mouthfeel. And so it's not like one's better than the other, they're just completely different. So when you're tasting this Riesling that we've been trying, you get that elegance, you get that brightness out of it, that minerality, and that's all aspects of the soil. No, he's coming to you, Randy. All right, well, so stomp your feet a little bit. That soil just tends to glom on there and come on into the tasting room. All right. All right, so we're here in the tasting room now, and I'd like to introduce you to Ryan Wright. He works in the cellar with me, and also works in the tasting room, so he knows everything about all the wines. Don't give out all the secrets, please. But I've chosen, if you can, for the Signature Zen, the new one, the 2012, which isn't released yet, as well as the Cabernet Franc. And I must excuse myself. We're planting some vineyards, and I need to get back out into the field. Randy, so nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful time. Thank you very much. Enjoy, and enjoy Ryan too.
Thanks again.
Cheers.
Appreciation level as far as behind the bar. Tell us a little bit about, was it just from osmosis? Was it just about being around winemakers? What was it?
Yeah, mainly osmosis. I mean, Paul's a great teacher over there, and I truly, am grateful for the knowledge that he's given me. Initially, when I started out, I was going to school for something else. I was going down to Sac State, and once I really got a feel for it and started working here, I just fell in love with it and decided this is what I want to do. So I've been learning all I can ever since.
And plan on staying.
Yeah, definitely.
Very good. Very good. We just want to be able to show differences between the very large, the in-between, and the small boutique wineries. And hopefully on this series we'll be able to do that and have some fun.